Greetings, everyone. Welcome, and good to make contact with you. Today, we're going to be talking about the Communication Opportunity Group scheme. I'm sure you're asking, what is all this about? Well, it started when the Medical Research Council in England asked me to look at 300 students who assessed quite normally on intelligence tests, but were failing in school. And at that time, I was head of the speech and language service in an area of the Midlands. And the sort of psycholinguistic tests we use, they thought might reveal some of their problems, which indeed they did, because we found that what their problem was, they couldn't put together quantities of talk, which you find when you enter a classroom and the teacher talks to you in a monologue with a lot of information for you to grasp. And you need strategies of inference, reference, and coherence in order to assemble that information and make meaning. And they were missing from the whole cohort of students. Now, they were perfectly all right in their ordinary conversation called dialogue, because in those contexts, much of the meaning comes from the surroundings that they're in and the non-verbal cues that are available, so you don't have to rely on words. So the COGS came into being to find a framework that could be used in teaching all the narrative levels, which we identify as 7 major levels. And we know that from research that is ongoing, that as students leave education without the higher levels in place. And the higher levels, we're talking about the ability to report on something accurately and evaluate it. Also, the structure that is involved in telling a story, where you've got to get a context, characters, actions, reactions, any other responses, and reflections. Those strategies are missing from lots of people. And how do they affect life? Well, in the workplace, it means you struggle to carry out instructions because you can't bring them together to make meaning of them. And also, you lack what we call an internal voice or self-talk or inner talk if you haven't got the higher narrative levels. And that means that you find it difficult to go through things in an order properly. And also, you find it difficult to look at the consequences or assess the consequences of your actions. Very important things to cope with life, aren't they? And you find now that there's so many more people having mental health issues, and because of their inability to cope with life. And when you assess them, you find that they're lacking the higher level narrative and thinking abilities for them to cope. So the COGS is a framework for teaching this. And indeed, when I was a teacher, because as well as being a speech and language therapist, I'm a psychologist and a teacher. As a teacher, I taught as a psychologist right through the levels. And I always made sure that in all my sessions that we produced tasks and activities that went through all the 7 major narrative levels, so that those who hadn't acquired them had got models, so to see how they could develop. So I hope you are able to look at the web, because there's much more information in a documentation about the COGS, that if you're interested in reading all the background to this, you can do so. But even not, if you're just scanning it through and maybe not taking it forward in a formal way, you can get some ideas that might help to improve your communication. It's a very enjoyable experience, communication, and if you get it right, you really do benefit from improved relationships and improved achievements. So enjoy and have a lovely day. Thank you.